have with us Jessica Rensch, the author of A Different Kind of Edge. We're so excited to get a chance to talk to you. Thank you, Jessica, for taking time with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here.
So, first off, let's learn a little bit about you and when you first started skating. What kind of made you decide you wanted to start skating, and how old were you?
Well, I was 9 when I started. It was one of those things where I wanted to since I was a little girl, probably 4 or 5. I would talk about it all the time. And we just never lived anywhere that was close to a rink. And then my family and we moved to Florida, of all places. There's actually a lot of skating in Florida. And we were near a rink. And so I begged them to let me start skating. And pretty much the minute I started lessons, I knew I was all in. And it wasn't long before I was doing private lessons and, working towards shows and competitions and tests and everything like that.
That's awesome. So now then you get to a certain point and you're like, okay, I want to become a coach. What made you decide that was the path you wanted to take?
So that was kind of a something that happened over time because it was when I was in college that I first discovered how much I loved it. I would go home. I was living in Virginia at the time, and I would go home for the summer. And there was this basic skills skating camp that they had, and they would have me come out and be one of the coaches there. And I loved it. I would get so excited. I would come home and just tell my family all the things I was doing and how much I loved it. And I remember my mom just looking at me and being like, Jessica, like, I think you would absolutely love to be a coach. And at the time, I kind of dismissed it. I was like, no, I'm not, I can't do that. I'm not good enough. I would tell myself all those things. And it wasn't until I moved to the Midwest, to Missouri, that I found a rink and decided I would try it out. This was years later, where I actually became a learn to skate coach and a private lesson coach and absolutely loved it.
Awesome. Now, do you coach all levels, all ages, or do you kind of stick to certain groups?
So I have always done all levels, all ages. Um, I think that my preference over the years of coaching was working with adults. I just find that you can build these great connections. It's so much fun to be out there with other adult skaters that are like-minded and experiencing similar things.
Oh, definitely. I found the adult community is completely different, and I just loved working with them. One of
Mm-hmm.
the other coaches we had talked to had said, like when you have the kids, you have them for just this brief moment in time, and then they grow up and they go do other things. But the adult skaters, you seem to have this lifelong, once they start
Yeah,
skating, they stay in it. So you get to have a bigger piece of their life. It's fun.
right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Now, you had an injury that took you away from skating, correct?
Yes, I did. It was a very unexpected injury, and at the time, it was absolutely devastating. But kind of looking back, um, it turned out to be in some ways a positive thing because I learned a lot from it. And I've been able to help a lot of people because of it, because it's devastating. Just to give you, a short story on what happened, I was doing a backward 3 turn, just kind of walking through footwork for a skater. And I wasn't really moving much, it was just slow. And I hit a rut in the ice and fell just really funny. And so I fell and immediately like heard a snap and knew I'd broken my ankle, but it was broken in 3 places and dislocated. And so I ended up having to have it surgically repaired. And anyone who's been through that probably knows like that comes with a lot of pain after. So it took a lot of physical therapy and then eventually a second surgery to get back to where I could be in skates. I was in skates coaching, but I was in pain in between the 2 surgeries. Like it was really hard. And there were a lot of times where I was like, I don't know if I can continue this. I don't know if I can skate. This might be the end of it. And that was hard. But when I got the second surgery after time and more physical therapy, I was able to get back on the ice to mostly no pain. And that was a huge blessing.
Oh, yeah. I know after an injury like that, a lot of people have this fear. They're like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to do things. So,
Mhm.
how did you overcome that fear of, you know, yes, I still love the sport and I still want to go out there and do things?
Right. And that was a hard thing to do because I would have to say that for me, the discouraging aspect when I got on the ice was worse than the fear. I would get out there, and I swear the first day I was on the ice again, which was probably kind of early, I was given the go ahead to like stand in skates, but I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna skate. I could barely do swizzles. It was so painful. I couldn't move. And I was like, in my head just thinking, this is terrible, this is not me, I've lost it all, the spiraling negative thoughts were happening. That was my biggest thing I had to overcome. Fear was also there. Like, I was afraid to fall because obviously, like, I was afraid that was going to happen again, but I was also anxious to get that first fall. And so when I did have my first fall, it hurt, it wasn't pleasant, of course, but I was so excited. I ran over to some of the other coaches and I was like, I just fell. I am so happy because I fell. And I know that was like a breakthrough moment. So I had it in my head that that was something I was going to have happen as a hurdle to remind myself that, 99.99% of the time when you fall, you're going to hurt some, but you're not going to be injured. And so um that was what kind of helped me, was like being able to have that moment of falling, remembering that that was a good thing. And I think after that, each time I fell, I was less afraid before it happened. um as far as like moving forward from my mindset and being so discouraged, that took a lot of work on and off the ice. I had to talk to people about it and really share my concerns. Writing is something I do therapeutically. So I would write about my feelings, um, and really just prep myself. Uh, the biggest thing was I had to remind myself that I couldn't look at it like my experience on the ice now as where I was before. I had to look at where I was and then watch the small steps. And when I started watching like small steps and progress, I noticed that I was encouraging myself more, because I'd be like, oh, look at that. Today I was able to hold an edge all the way around the circle and, it didn't hurt as badly. And so that's a win. And just kind of focusing on that instead.
That's so important, focusing on those little wins, because like you said, you can get so
Mhm.
caught up in the big picture of things. So
Right.
now you have a background in psychology as well, or
I
did I?
do.
Yeah. So do you think that that kind of helped you kind of with the looking at those little wins and getting through all the fears and the different things that came from the injury?
Yeah, I think it did. I think that's something that I always carry with me, is that background and just um kind of my fascination. That why I went into psychology is I'm fascinated with the human mind, why we think things, why we do things, how we interact with each other. So I'm always thinking about that stuff. And so as I was going through this, and I would be sitting there, telling myself that it was all over, I wasn't going to be able to skate or coach. Um, I would sit there and I would wonder about, like, you know, why am I feeling that way? How can I fix this? And try to like solve the problem the best I could. And so yeah, I think that having that background and that interest definitely did help me.
Nice. I'm sure it helps when you're working with your students as well. Now, you said you work with all ages, but you really like working with adults. What are some of, because every age group is kind of different. What are some of the key tips and tricks that you use or that you think it is important for adults to remember?
So with adults, I try really hard to remind them not to get in their head. And I also remind them that it's natural to get in your head. I don't want them to feel like bad about it, but when they can be aware of it and really you know, go out there and notice when they start comparing, because I think that's what a lot of adults tend to do. Just from talking to them and, you know, being an adult skater myself, is that we like to compare ourselves to others, particularly others who may be younger and have more time to practice. And that can be just a dangerous rabbit hole to go down. So I try to remind them not to do that. And then also to focus on the small wins. And that was something that I really did learn with my ankle injury, when I had no choice but to stop and do that. So with adult skaters and lessons, that's always something that I like to stop and do with them, and say, like, okay, you're hating the scratch spin today, and I know it's hard and it's overwhelming and all the things that go wrong with them, but let's talk about where you were a month ago, and just remind them, because it's so easy to forget, you know, how far you've actually come when you're making small steps in skating.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. And so important. I think that's kind of like a daily affirmation a lot of adult skaters need, is to remember those small steps and to just kind of not forget how far they've come. So,
Right. Mm-hmm.
so tell us a little bit about your book that you wrote. So,
Um, so I wrote my book. Actually, I have one of the original copies with me here, The Different Kind of Edge. It's Transitioning from Skater to Coach, a guide to figure skating foundations. Um, Originally, when I started it, it was solely for coaches, because I just remembered that when I started coaching, I didn't know how to take what I knew how to do on the ice and put it into words and explain it. Demonstrating, yeah, I can do that, but a lot of people need it to be broken down. And so that was what I did in my early years coaching, was like really try to talk to people, listen, pay attention to how is this done? Because like this 3-turn that I'm doing, I just feel it, but what's actually happening here? And so basically, like through my years coaching, taking notes and kind of learning the ins and outs and the small details of things, I realized this could be a book, because there's not really there's not a lot of just general overview books about the technique of figure skating. And I felt like that's something I would have wanted for sure. So I started working on it. And then during it, I also recognized that it was something that adult skaters also appreciate, because I think as adult skaters, we like to know more about what we're doing. We like to know the ins and outs behind the scenes, new techniques, new drills. And so it ended up being something that I don't know the percentage, but I'd say, you know, maybe roughly half of my readers are adult skaters, and then maybe half are coaches. It ended up being for a broader group of people than I thought. But what I did in the book is I broke it down in chapters, like where I talk about spins, or I talk about jumps, um, just basic skating skills like crossover, stroking edges, and then some of the moves in the field, like different patterns and techniques and things you'll see a little bit on dance competitions. And then I also decided to put into it just a little bit about figure skating and, you know, what it's like to be in the figure skating world, because when you are just entering it, you know, it can seem overwhelming. So I tried to explain about skates and you know, just the things that like aren't necessarily going to make sense at first. So
right.
kind of an introductory, like this is different things that you might need to know about. This is what it's like to compete. This is what freestyle sessions are like. And I think that I think it's also like useful for people who have been in the skating world but want a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing in my book is that I'm not saying in any way like what I am preaching is the right way, because there's so many ways to do stuff. I just wanted to give more ways, because I think that sometimes as coaches, if you're like stuck and you need a new technique to share with a skater, it's just not working or clicking for that skater. If you had something else like, oh, this coach does this and it works, then that's a nice reference to have. And so it's just the ways I found that I like. But even after writing it, like I'll learn new techniques where I'm like, oh, I need to add that in, because it's endless. Figure skating is it's so technical and specific, but it's so creative in that you can get to the end in different ways. So that's kind of where I was coming from with it.
Well, that's really neat. And I think there's a lot of great information in it. And I always said that coaching made me a better skater because, like, you're right. Each skater needs to hear it in kind of a different way. So, yes, you have
Right.
to stick off of this edge. You have to, it's either a toe jump or it's not. So, certain things, yes, you have to, but how they get there and
Mhm.
how like this person understands it versus that person. I can explain it this way. And then like one of my skaters would be like, oh, so you mean this? And now I've just got a new way to explain it to the next student. So
Right.
I think all those little tools really do help you make you a better coach and a better skater. All
Yeah, definitely. And I think just being open-minded as a coach, which can be hard to do, I've gotten stuck where I'm like, this is the right way, and that's it. And then I sometimes have my eyes open where I'm like, oh, you know what? Actually, it wasn't. There's lots of ways, and for this particular skater, that works better. It's easy to get stuck in that. And when we're open-minded and we're creative with skating, I think it just really opens up a world of difference for skaters, and it makes
yeah,
it more fun for coaches too.
definitely. You don't have that monotony anymore. It's like a
Right.
little factory. You're not doing that. You can go this way, you can go that way. So
Mm-hmm.
mm, very helpful. Now, you have a website and you have different options that people can do virtual lessons with you or on ice options. But then you also have a newsletter and you've got a lot going on that website.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little
Yes.
bit about what, when a skater logs onto your website, what they'll see.
So when they go on my website, they'll see like the virtual lessons option, where you can just sign up, and then um, that's something where if someone signs up for it, I definitely want to connect and talk and make sure that we're a good fit, because that's always important, with skaters and coaches, whether in person or virtual, that we're gonna mesh well and that we're looking for the same end goals. Like, uh, I just think that's important to talk to them first. And the big thing is I want to make sure I'm never stepping on a coach's toes. So I'll always want to know, like, where's your coach in this? A lot of times I'll hear from skaters that live in areas where they don't have coaching for adult skaters, or there's no coaches available at the time, stuff like that. But if there's someone who has a coach, I want to make sure that that's okay. And then what my role is, because I'm just going to do supplemental coaching, just helping with certain specific needs, in the virtual setting. So that's something that's there. And then, yes, skaters can subscribe, or coaches can subscribe to my website. And I have a newsletter that I send out. And what I try to do there is just take a specific topic and go a little bit deeper into it and share it with the readers. And then I also like to share just like a fun random tip that I found useful, fun things that are going on. So that's an option on there. And then I have an email I'll send out monthly as well. And then exclusive stories on my Instagram page that you'll be able to access as one of the members who subscribes. So that's all there. And then my link to my book is there as well. And don't know if I'm forgetting anything. I think that's the basics of what's on the page right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's so gives someone a little extra tool. I like that. I don't think I've ever seen virtual skating lessons before. So I was like, okay, well, that's pretty impressive. So if I wanted to do a virtual lesson, kind of how would you do that? Do you have them do it on their phone while they're on the ice, or kind of walk us through what an idea of a virtual lesson would be?
That's how I do it. One thing that I've found really helpful is if a skater has earbuds in, because one of the struggles with a virtual lesson is, you can't necessarily talk to the skater without disturbing others or um, without like with them being able to hear you if music's going and stuff's going on at the rink. So a big thing is if they just put earbuds in, then that way you can be talking while they're skating around, which is kind of cool because sometimes in a skating lesson, you're standing at the boards, you can't talk to them as they're in the turn doing the crossovers. So I can be saying, okay, push harder, you got this, and encouraging them as they go. So that's one thing I like about the virtual lessons is having that opportunity to just be like in their ear as they skate and talking and not disrupting other skaters or lessons. I definitely don't ever want to step on toes, like I said, when it comes to these lessons. And then it's really actually pretty easy to be able to see as long as the skater positions the phone up. I can see a good view of the rink. If there's any areas they can't see, I just let them know, or I can't see, I let them know to kind of like watch out for that area. Um, and then we'll just go through like a normal everyday lesson.
That's
Yeah.
so cool. What a great tool for skaters who, like you said, maybe there isn't a lot of coaching options for them. So that's awesome.
Right. Thanks.
So you're on Instagram, you're on YouTube, you've got your website. So we see you all over the place. You've got some fun stuff coming up though, right? Um,
Yes. So, skate coach Grow, I'm sure you've heard of her. Jolyn Hecht, she and I, we, we've just been partners in coaching for years, and we kind of broke off into this virtual world together where, we decided that we love the adult skating community and we wanted to bring something more, to the adult skating community, but in person. So we're working on the adult meetups and then the adult retreats that are going to be coming up this year. And we're really looking forward to it. The meetups are going to be more of a quick, like, uh, day thing where you can come in for the day to whatever city we have it planned for. And then you can skate. We'll do like clinic, off ice things all together, and then something social as a group. And then you can go about your day after that. So it's just something shorter. And then the retreats are more of an all inclusive full weekend where you show up and you just need to get yourself to the retreat location. And then from there, everything is covered. We'll have location transportation to the rink and back. We'll have food covered, social events, off ice, all the on ice clinic stuff, and private ice for everyone so that it's not during a crowded session. So that's the goal there. Those have been pushed back a little. I think, I don't know if, I know you probably know this from seeing my Instagram, but we had originally had one early fall, and I am expecting a baby in February. So we pushed it back and we're going to wait until next fall so that I can kind of be out there skating with everyone and more comfortable. So we're looking forward to that.
awesome. And so now they can get information from this on your website, correct? Is there anywhere else that they can get this information?
They can get it on Instagram too. We post a lot of links and a lot of information there. But yes, websites. And then we also have an email list people can join so that if you want to get all the information directly, if you just give us your email address, we won't blow up your email or anything, but we will send out updates and we have dates and locations, and that way you don't miss anything. So that's something that look for in our stories. So again, it's Skate Coach Grow, and then a different kind of edge. We have those links a lot of time. You can just submit your email address and then we'll get you added to the list.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And best of luck in all the new seminars and everything that you've got growing.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you and getting to know you. And yeah, we're looking forward to it. We'll keep you guys posted on everything. So
Great.
thanks.
Thank you. Happy skating.
Thank you too. Bye.